I'm being told my commentary is louder, and that is good, so that's good news. Not trying to eat the mic today. I'm a fan of Qatar in real life. It's a pretty good track. My only issue with it is that it's very hard to understand where someone is at during a lap, as the entirety of the track looks the same. Literally no landmarkers. We've been stuck. Okay. Let me send out an invite to Pontic. Invite to Pontic has been sent. Let me get the data up and we can start commentating on qualifying. It's a short qualifying as we do not have the required 15 drivers. Okay. Our first car is Trip Yachts. Trip Yachts driving the Visa Cash App Racing Bull car is currently going to lead as our first driver of qualifying. He is followed by the Kicksauber of Kursk. Kursk did not finish the race in Imola, but I believe he is still trying to keep his championship contention. Behind Kursk seems to be the Ferrari of Lightcast, who is Naomi. Some drivers are still easing out the pit lane. I think Qatar's a pretty easy track to get out of the way. Very open. Lots of runoff. Honestly, chances are you're not going to get any impeding. Hopefully not. It's very hard to overtake in Qatar. You have to be very ballsy if you want to either dive bomb or go on the outside. I wonder what people are going to be running, as I wonder if it'll be a low down force, as that helps you greatly in the corners past the main straight, or if you take a low down force, so you could. Ponting is going to invite. 1 second. I'll send him 2, just in case. There you go. Okay. 2 invites to Pontic. Okay. As I was saying, you can do a high down force, so you can be very good in the corners, past the first corner. Or you can take a low down force and be very good in the main straight. It is a decision that one could make. I, in the tier 1 race, took high down force. It did not work out for me. So I wonder if it's a skill issue or high down force is not the strat. Who knows? Was a good tier 1 race though. It is to my knowledge that throughout the entirety of tier 2, no one has had a repeat win. Let me check the tier 2 standings as we can actually see the winners. So our season opener was won by Pontic. Then our race 2 in Bahrain was won by Josh. Our race in Miami won by Naomi, and our race in Imola won by Starnik after penalties were applied. So we've currently had no repeat winners. I wonder if the sprint count, I don't have the sprint information, but it's a very interesting, very competitive tier 2 I see. Very nice. Our championship currently is being led by Josh, who I don't think is racing today. So Josh is not going to be able to maintain his lead. He is currently 41 points ahead. Due to consistency, he's actually finished the first 3 races on the podium. His last race was not on the podium, however, but he has a 41-point lead. He's being followed by Kursk, who is P2. Kursk did not finish. Actually, apparently he did finish Imola. My fault. From the sprint, actually, never mind. He did not finish the Imola main race, but he did get the sprint points. Kursk is currently P2. He is closely followed by P3 of Pontic. Pontic is racing. Pontic has joined and left the session, so I'm sending another invite. It seems like his internet is having a heart attack. Hopefully he can get that fixed, as Pontic is a very fast driver and I would love to have him. Pontic's currently P3 in the championship standings, only 1 point behind P2. Lone Wolf P4, very close as well. He's actually tied with Pontic, my fault. So Pontic and Lone Wolf are tied for P3. Pontic only edging him out for ahead. Lone Wolf did not finish Miami, has got 2 podium positions, and got points in Imola. So currently we have a very tight championship. Only person who is drastically ahead is Josh, but he is not here today. So that's going to cause his points to be reduced. If Kirsch, Pontic, or Lone Wolf were to win this race, they'll reduce the championship difference from 41 points to possibly 30 to 10, sorry. So this is actually a very important race today, as Josh has a very high lead. Sadly, Josh was not able to attend. And P5 is Rosie. Wow, Rosie did not do the first 2 races. However, the last 2 races, they finished P3 both times. And we keep going on the list, yada, yada, yada. Currently, our lowest race winner in the championship is Starnik. Starnik won the main race in Imola. He is driving the Alpine. His teammate Diamond Bullet is racing, which I'm very surprised of, as I heard he has a shoulder injury. So I hope to see him. I've been rambling the entire time and I've not noticed who's been sending times. I'm not going to lie to you, it's kind of my fault. Lightcast is currently P1. This is also like their first laps out, so nothing that important. Lightcast P1. Apparently, Josh might not return. Very sad to see, but it is what it is. Naomi's currently P1 with a 122.0. Lone Wolf follows by 123, a whole second down on Naomi. If you do not know, Naomi is racing, will continue to race in the Tier 2 league. However, she will not be gaining points. She'll be racing for the fun of it, which I think is a good boundary. It lets her continue racing. However, it should not affect the championship standings in the slightest. So Naomi will be P1 currently with a 1 second gap to P2, who is Lone Wolf. Kirsch closely follows with a 123, 3/10 down on Lone Wolf. Trip Yachts with a 123.5. He was her first lap out, if you remember. 5/10 down. Closely followed by Marshaller, who had a great race in Imola. Sadly had to go down to P4 off the podium because of a penalty. It would have been a great race for Williams. They would have finished 2-3. However, they finished 2-4, which is still a very respectable finishing position. Especially after the Tier 1 race. Tier 1, they had a 1-2, the Williams team. If you don't understand, Naomi will be continuing to race, but she will not gain points unless I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that's what I read. So please forgive me if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, Naomi's not getting points. She's just racing for fun. Still competitive though, so she will still be racing you. But if I'm correct, Lone Wolf is technically on the provisional pole following Naomi. I'd be really upset if I'm wrong, because I'm just spreading lies then. But that's to my knowledge. Hopefully someone can confirm. Let's keep going down. The Mercedes of TTV, I sadly have not seen them race that much. I do know they have been consistently racing, but I have not seen that much on-track action from them. Xenophi in the Red Bull is our new reserve driver. Starnik, our last race winner, is currently P8 for 125.9. Leah Plays, who finished P2 in the last Imola race, has a 126.8. Diamond Bullet is on his outlap. Pontic is not currently in the session. I'll send him another invite just in case. I've not been asked, but I want to make sure he tries to join. If I can find him. There he is, Pontic. Hopefully he can join. Diamond Bullet is P11 without a time set. Let's see who is on a lap. I think Brian's on a lap, however, so let's watch Brian. Or I could be wrong. This could be his end lap, actually. When we are watching the race, and there's still 9 minutes to go, majority of people who do their fastest lap will be in the final 3 minutes. I'm going to go check if I'm correct that Naomi is racing for fun, or I just spread lies. Naomi is a great racer. No doubt about that. I'm being told by Jeff she is racing for fun. I don't know who Jeff is, but thank you, Jeff, for telling me. I cannot find the message. Let's move back on to our qualifying performance. Brian has a 123.052, still following behind Lone Wolf, no improvements there. Kirsch down to 125.08. Oh, actually, forgive me. Brian actually has moved up to P3, barely out qualifying Kirsch and the Kick Sauber by 6 hundredths of a second. Very impressive. Brian has had a great performance recently, following Bahrain, where he closely fell behind Pontic. He's been putting in the work, and honestly, he's my driver of the session so far. Diamond Bullet does a 123.23 with his hurt shoulder, out qualifying his teammate Starnick, followed by Trippiot for 123.5. Marshall for 123.5 as well, only 1/10. Wait, I can't count. 1/10th. I mixed up earlier. 100th down on Trippiot. Pontic still not in the session. I wonder if he's in a race today. Leah plays on her outlap. Starnick is sick, apparently. He is racing sick. Reminds me of Logan Sargent in Qatar. God bless his soul. I love Logan Sargent. I will not take any slander of my boy Logan Sargent. Let's go back up to Naomi, who I believe is in an in lap. If I believe she's currently 15 seconds down. Don't know what she's doing. Lone Wolf improves his time to a 122.861. This happened earlier. It's very hard to go back and forth as I do not have a race director who shows me screens. I have to actually manually look around. So Lone Wolf did improve on his time up to a 122.861. That is 0.2 up from his previous time, which puts him 0.8 down on Naomi. I'm being asked what's the average race lap time for tier 2. I'm not going to lie, I have no clue. Looking at this current qualifying order, this is what I should be expecting. Nothing out the ordinary besides Pontic down in P12 as he's been unable to join. I'm going to message him to see if he's going to be able to recover or if he's resetting his Wi-Fi. 1 second, please. Oh, I missed something when I was on my phone. Nope, nothing important. Grid penalty, actually. Oh, I am sorry. A grid penalty for both Lightcast and Xenophi, who is in the Red Bull. Lightcast Naomi, who's in the Ferrari. Very surprising. I'm sorry, Pontic, you are in the lobby. I'm being told... Oh, I forgive me. So Pontic is in the lobby, but he cannot set a lap time, so he has to start from P12. Pontic actually did a similar thing in Imola, and he actually had a great recovery drive. So forgive me, Pontic. I thought you were disconnected. Moving back onto our issue, Naomi of the Ferrari and Xenophi of the Red Bull have collided, and they both have got grid penalties, which is very random. Usually during grid penalties, only one car gets the penalty. I don't know why both of them got it. Probably a very similar incident, maybe side by side, hit each other, don't know. However, if they both get grid penalties, it means Naomi crash. I don't know why though. If you have a grid penalty and you can make a ticket fast enough, it might be removed. However, it has to be a very fast ticket. If you can't make the ticket in time, it's okay. Just make a ticket later and they'll still get a penalty. but it is what it is. I do not know what happened. Naomi is currently accusing the driver of Xenophile in the Red Bull. I keep saying that, of an incident, but I did not see it myself, so I could not commentate, casting blame yet. Brian's currently the only car out. He is currently on a lap. He's currently P3. Brian's trying to make sure he's going to do his best. Currently in the championship standings, Lone Wolf, who is P2, if I'm correct. Actually, I think it's P3, actually. I might be wrong. 1 second. I do not have it printed out. Lone Wolf, who is P4, is 67 points off P1. However, he is only 1 point off P2. Xenophile is casting blame on himself on the grid penalty, so that might help cast blame. He is saying it's his fault. Brian might be in traffic right now. And I think he actually abandons his lap. I think he finds traffic at a horrible corner. Brian's not going to be happy, as he seems to have set up purple sector 2. His time is now ruined, if I'm correct. Very hard to tell if it was a hot lap. However, if you set up purple sector 2, it's probably going to be a hot lap. Brian currently is now abandoning the lap. Hopefully, maybe going to try to go for another lap by recovering his information. Now comes into the pit. Brian is abandoning the lap. Very sad to see. I don't know how much time is left, as I have the dumb yellow flag in the way. It's 1:56. There actually might be time to come into the pit, set new tires, and leave. As long as he leaves by 1:30, I think he's fine. So he needs to be quick with it. However, if Brian's upset by that, he will make a ticket. Naomi will probably make a ticket as well. Let's move up to Lone Wolf. He's on his out lap. Let's move down the Diamond Bullet. Diamond Bullet is, let's see, not going I actually have no clue what this is. This might be an actual lap. Diamond Bullet is on a lap. Diamond Bullet is believed to be the Alpine who impeded Brian. Possibly, I do not know. Move down to Trip Yachts. Trip Yachts was the first car out. He's going to finish his lap. This will be his final lap. He comes across the line with a not competitive time of 1:27, unless this is his lap right now. I could not see. Let's move down to Marshaller on his out lap as well. Move back up to Diamond Bullet. Diamond Bullet invalidated his lap and comes into the pits. He's qualified P5 and probably not move up, but might move down. Trip Yachts, 4 seconds down on his time. I do not know the timing, as again the yellow flag's in the way. Leo plays retires from the session for 1:26.7. Starnick's on his out lap. He is sick, so if you remember that, he will start his lap time now. Xenophiles in the pits, they will not improve. TTVA, the Mercedes, has retired in the pit lane. Marshaller is currently on a lap for 1:23.5. That's the lap he set earlier on his first lap. Hopefully he can improve. Any improvement he can find, he can get above Trip Yachts or possibly Diamond Bullet. Brian was unable to set another lap time. Moving up to Naomi. Naomi is on a lap or not. She looks to be pushing, so I'm going to say she's on a lap. Coming across Sector 1 with a purple Sector 1. 2/10 up on her previous time, almost 3. Very good lap from Naomi, being closely followed by the McLaren of Lone Wolf, who was trying his best to keep his technical provisional pole. He's 2/10 ahead of Brian. Currently seems like he has no competitors besides Kirsch, who puts over 1:22.6. 2/10 ahead of Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf now needs to find 2/10 to get back ahead of P2. Easy finding that time. He is closely finding the Ferrari. A snap of oversteer, cross sector 3. 2 long straights with 1 corner to go. That's more of a bend in my opinion. If you could take a flat out, he's coming across the final corner. He has a slight 30 year because of the Naomi. However, he might get clean air. Naomi is weaving, driving unpredictably. Hopefully, this does not affect him. It is possible that he gets P2. He does. Lone Wolf gets P2 ahead of Kirsch. Kirsch with his amazing lap time, however, gets P3. Following qualifying light cast with a 5 place grid penalty. I do not believe a ticket was received, meaning she sadly has to surf it because I cannot change it unless Golden Count tells me to. Up to him. But light cast with a 5 grid penalty, followed by Lone Wolf, Kursk, and Brian. Marshaller, P5, does improve on his time, gets ahead of Diamond Bullet and Trip Yachts. Great qualifying for Marshaller. Diamond Bullet, P6, Trip Yachts, P7, the Mercedes of P8, Cinephile, P9, follow with a grid penalty, however, will start dead last. Starnik, P10, Leah plays P11, and Pontic P12. Pontic should be in the session as he's technically in the qualifying, so he should be in the race. If he's not in the race, I will probably have to remake the lobby because I'm not gonna not let him race. That's mean. A penalty will be applied for impeding a lap, but it will not be applied now. That penalty is applied later because I don't have a ticket and I can't prove anything. So if you make a ticket about impeding, it will be as a race penalty, not a qualifying penalty, as I have no way of proving it. So currently we should have 12 drivers racing. I think following the grid penalty that Naomi has unfairly, as apparently the Red Bull has already claimed responsibility, however, I cannot change it. She will be starting P5, meaning, and you know what? She gets some fun timed racing. She can now overtake, so that should be good. We are having a mild argument in the chat as people are claiming what you should do to get out the way. Pontic is asking us to wait. I do not understand why. He's adding Golden Callum. Pontic is in the session, according to me. He's currently P11. He's asking for the lobby to reset. Pontic cannot put a setup on. I will have to wait for Golden Callum's approval as I'm only the commentator. I could make the lobby really quickly, and I also probably could change the grid penalty for Naomi. However, I'm waiting for Golden Callum to respond. It is up to him, and I'm just a commentator. Hello, we are back. Barring an issue with qualifying, we are currently on our formation lap. Due to an issue with multiple drivers having technical faults, we were forced to reset. However, due to multiple driver complaints regarding this reset will be later, not reset, future occurrences similar to this one will be handled differently. Thank you for everyone's patience. Currently, our current goal is to make sure this race goes as smoothly as we possibly can. Light cast penalty has been removed, putting her back into P1. Lone Wolf, who is technically on provisional pole if we are ignoring Light cast's involvement in the points, is P2. Kursk is P3 following his qualifying. Very good time he put in. I don't know the exact time difference, however he was P2 on the final lap until Lone Wolf was able to improve on his first time. Brian P4. Marshaller P5, great lap time from him. Xenophi with a 5 grid penalty is currently P11, moving up Pontic and Leah plays. Starnik, our last race winner, is P8. Currently on the formation lap. This will be a long race, so it should be around 29 laps if I'm correct. Here we see it is a possible 1-stop or a 2-stop. I do think a 1-stop might be faster, however, it's going to be very difficult with the current tire wear. Let's bring up our current tires. So as you see, it's a pretty decent split. We have multiple cars on hards. Our first 3 are on hards, followed by Brian on mediums. Trip Yacht's also on mediums. Starnik is on softs, however, he is possibly doing the 2-stop soft mediums. Pontic on hards, and Xenophile also on mediums. The people on hard are going to try to at least do a 1-stop. It seems that Naomi has spun during the formation lap. Marshaller did not line up properly. That's why his current name is grayed out. Leah plays apparently does line up properly. It seems like her car is above. I might be wrong, actually. It's okay. My fault. Our race should be starting soon. We should have 5 red lights eventually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And away we go. Decent starts from the top. It looks like, however, the Alpine of Diamond Bullet has the best start of them all. Unable to convert, however, as he gets cut off. Naomi keeps P1. Kursk, however, gets the better line into P2. But Lone Wolf does not let go of it. He should be able to hold on, possibly. He does not. Does not. Lone Wolf actually goes down 2 positions, back up with the P3. Brian P4 still. Haas taking out multiple positions. Kursk is now up into P2 due to the line. Naomi has a comfortable lead as the people in P2 down the P4 were fighting. Kursk up to P2. Lone Wolf up down to P3. Brian stays his position of P4. Diamond Bullet had a great start. I think he had the fastest start, however, was unable to move up positions due to being blocked. Pontic, who started P10 up to P6. Due to the amount of cornering, most drivers... Oh, and there was contact between Trip Yachts and Xenophi. It seems as if the Red Bull of Xenophi now has front wing damage. It does, however, and that in Qatar is an absolute race ender. Should be coming into the pit soon, as there's no way to keep a pace at all with that damage. Trip Yacht seems to have come off unscathed. Might have lost time to Leah Plays. Going for the overtake into the corner. Leah Plays cuts him off. Does not allow it to happen. Attempt on the main straight. Move back up to the front. Lightcast has a comfortable lead in P1, followed by Kursk, who is being closely followed by the McLaren of P3, Lone Wolf, who qualified P2, trying his best to maintain, being fought by Brian. Brian, who had a great qualifying, is trying his best to get onto the podium. Pontic from P10 up to P5, passing Diamond Bullet. Starnik on his softs is able to pass his teammate, Diamond Bullet, P7. Marshaller, great qualifying, started P5 down to P8. He is on hards, however, so he's tried his best to go for as long as he can. Leah Plays is up 1 position. She qualified... Actually, no, she's started P9, still P9. Brian is the first penalty of the day, 3-second penalty. So far, we're back into the train. Xenofire and the Red Bull already pit for repairs. He qualified P11 after having a impeding penalty. Started P11, had damage, is still P11, 35 seconds down. He switched to the hards. Kursk is still P2, being followed behind Lone Wolf of P3. Lone Wolf qualified P2. Naomi says our fastest lap, purple sectors. She is currently having the benefit of clean air and not being fought. Lone Wolf moves up into P2, using DRS, passes Kursk into the first corner. Lone Wolf should be able to maintain his second position throughout the rest of the lap, as it's very hard to overtake without a heavy tire differential. Kursk is now down to P3, followed by Brian. Pontic is trying his best to catch up. He is still 2 seconds down, being closely followed by Starnik on his softs to give him a rapid time, but they're going to degrade very quickly. Diamond Bullet should be benefiting from the DRS of his faster teammate at the current moment due to tires, but he gets a 3-second penalty for going over track limits. Qatar is an absolute track limit destroyer. I believe in Tier 1, the majority, if not 90% of the cars all had penalties. I'll be very surprised if that's a lower percentage in Tier 2. It's just it's not hard to keep it on track. It is just difficult to gauge where the white line is. There is absolutely no markers, no walls close enough to the wall. So it's very easy to go over by a centimeter, and now you have track limits for no reason. You gain no time. It's just track limits being track limits. Very annoying, but it is what it is. Moving back up into our front runners, Lone Wolf is 3 seconds down on Naomi, who's being closely followed by Kursk. He will have DRS this lap. Brian followed closely behind. Pontic has closed the 2-second gap down to 1 second. Will not have DRS, however, he's getting closer. Kursk goes for the overtake, and he does around Lone Wolf. Very difficult to maintain your position with DRS. Tries to swing it around the outside, cannot convert. Kursk is our new P2 position. Technically, he's our new race leader, as technically Naomi is racing for the fun of it. She is currently P1 with a 4-second gap in front. So in theory, Kursk is currently net P1 following Lone Wolf, who's net P2. Brian is net P3. Pontic is net P4, and yada yada yada. Pontic has closed the time down from 2 seconds to 3 tenths. He is on his teammate. They are both Haas drivers, however, and they should try their best to race cleanly. Want to keep up the appearance of good racing. Pontic tried to go for an overtake around the corner. Does he convert it? That is a very daring overtake that the game would not show me for some reason, and he does convert it. Hopefully both drivers are very happy. Pontic with an amazing overtake on his teammate. Very ballsy, however, I do not think there was any contact. I could not tell because of the game's directory. Pontic up into P4. Following the race leaders, technically. Starnik with a 3-second penalty, similar to his teammate in P6. Pontic will have DRS, and I believe Brian will not. He will still have Slipstream, however. Lone Wolf recovers his P2. The DRS and the Slipstream around the main street of Qatar is very strong. It's going to be a slingshot battle the rest of the race, pretty much. Naomi now has a 5-second gap. She is benefiting from the clean air, and the fact is that she has not fought anyone since race start. She was able to take turn 1 and fly off into the distance, as she never had a competitor. Unless we have mad time penalties from her, she should be the race winner on track. Lone Wolf down in P2 is able to actually gap Kursk by a second. They both have the same tire, same lap time, so he's getting a good run. It's possible Pontic has been putting pressure on Kursk, which is what Lone Wolf wants. If both of them drop behind because they're fighting, Lone Wolf can keep his P2, similar to how Naomi is keeping her P1. Diamond Bullet gets another 2-second penalty. It's very hard to not. I believe I ended my race with 12 seconds. It just happens. Nothing you can do about it. Pontic moves up into P3. Kursk gets a penalty at the same time. Pontic is now P3 and should start hunting down Lone Wolf. Kursk, however, is still able to keep fighting. A 3-second penalty around Qatar is nothing. Chances are everyone's going to get one. So at this point, ignore it and keep racing. Brian is down to P5. Passed by his teammate earlier. I closed everything accidentally. Around the inside, Kursk regains his position. up into P3 again. These cars are going to keep fighting the entire time. I wonder at what moment are they going to stop fighting to continue to move up on Lone Wolf. However, they seem to have moved up a little bit on him. Brian, down in P5, is trying his best to keep up. Very similar to Bahrain. He was unable to keep up with the front runners. However, he kept it on track, did his best, and he was able to net a nice P4 for the team. Brian's currently been a great, clean driver, unless I'm wrong. Diamond Bullet, his P6. Starnick, his Alpine teammate, has already pit because he was on softs. It seems as the softs degrade way too much on this track. Yellow flags behind Starnick. It seems as Leah Plays or Marshaller had an incident. Both cars still have their front wings, however, so I don't think it was anything major. Didn't get a warning either. Starnick is in the pits. He come out the pits on medium tires. Pontic is racing Kursk. Great racing from what I'm seeing so far. It looks like someone got ran off the road. However, they're both trying their best to maintain the position. Pontic with your second penalty. Like I said, both of them are getting penalties. There's literally no reason to give up racing because you have a penalty. Chances are you're both going to get one anyways. Kursk goes wide. Hopefully there's not track limits, as that'll be very unfair, as he literally gained no time. However, him going wide might be the reason why he does not overtake on this main straight. He does have DRS. Does he go for it? He does. A great tight overtake by Kirsch on Pontic. This is great racing in my opinion. What I actually want to see, unlike Imola. So far, I'm having way more fun watching this race. Lone Wolf, however, is benefiting from the great racing behind, as he got a 2-second gap now, and he has no penalties. If you're racing by yourself, you have a less chance of going over track limits, unlike Kursk and Pontic, who've been fighting. Kursk is back up into P3, following his amazing overtake into turn 1. Pontic is close behind. Both racers have very similar pace, very similar overtaking, good defense. Brian down in P5, 3 seconds down. However, he's keeping his delta behind. Diamond Bullet, who I believe qualified P7 up into P6. 6-lap old hards. He's on the same strategy as the front runners. Trip Yachts is P7. He's the same strategy as Brian. No insane gaps just yet. However, Naomi, who's up in the P1, is now 8.5 seconds up into the lead. Again, as I said earlier, she has getting the same benefit as Lone Wolf. Both of them have clean air and at the current moment do not need to defend. They can run their own races. Lone Wolf is benefiting from the fighting behind. Pontic will have DRS this lap, and he will have it really early on as he gets to overtake onto the main straight. Kursk goes tucks for the slipstream. He's not going to go for the overtake just yet. However, he's going to try his best to keep going. At the current moment, though, Lone Wolf, who is P2, does not have a penalty. So even if he gets overtaken, he just has to follow. So it's in their best interest that Pontic and Kursk overtake Lone Wolf and gap by 3 seconds if they want to keep going. However, Lone Wolf can always get a penalty because it's Qatar. Currently, the racing between 2 and 4 have been very good. Naomi is keeping her lead of now almost 10 seconds. Currently, I have not seen her get a penalty or seen her go track limit, so she is running her race very well. Diamond Bullet, who's down in P6. 2.5 down on Brian. He was with his Alpine teammate who had a pit because the softs were degrading way too hard. Trip Yachts, who is P7. Trip Yachts is our qualifying favorite, as he always goes out first, I believe. He is currently P7 on medium tires. Marshaller and the Leah Plays, the Williams drivers, P8, P9, doing their best to get a nice point overhaul, as their Tier 1 teammates and Williams got a nice 1-2. Which would be a great thing for the constructors. Leah Plays goes over track limits, however, she does not have a penalty just yet. Starnick P10, 2-lap old mediums, 10 seconds down on Leah Plays. Has pit, however. Encinofy, who was 11 seconds down, he was a nice 30 seconds down because he had a pit lap 2. He's already 11 seconds, so he's already undercut the Williams. Brian moves down to P7, however, it's because he has pit. Trip Yachts moves up to P6. Moving back up into not the main straight, Lone Wolf goes for an overtake. Very unconventional. This is actually racing I would like to see. Hopefully both of them acknowledge that it's hard racing, and when you're hard racing, anything happens. As long as both drivers don't actively kill each other, hard racing is hard racing. But I have to watch. This is a nice good cam of Pontic's point of view. He is trying his best to get Lone Wolf. However, it's very hard in this section as it's multiple tight corners. Not that you can really dive bomb. Let's move back up into Lone Wolf, who is still P2, being closely followed by Pontic. Kursk is down in P4, and he's 2 seconds down. He has fallen down from Pontic. He will not have DRS in this coming straight. I wonder why. It's possible he just had a snap of oversteer and he just couldn't get a corner right, and that's honestly enough to lose time like this when you're in a very tight race. Pontic has caught up to Lone Wolf, has DRS. He might send it in the corner. He does, actually. And Pontic is now our net P2. Lone Wolf down in the P3. Lone Wolf, though, is as fast as Kursk, and Kursk is doing very well against Pontic. So I do think Lone Wolf is still in the fight. He has to do his best to maintain that 1 second gap for DRS, and he has 0 penalties so far. Kursk is trying his best to catch back up. He was fighting Pontic. He's now down to P4. However, if they start to fight, Kursk is more than capable of catching back up. Diamond Bullet, P5, but he has another 3 second penalty. Trip Yachts, P6. He has yet to pit, and he has moved up because of that. Marshaller, P7. He's on the hards and will be going long. Brian has pit for hards already. He was our net P5. He was on mediums. He pit for hards. It's too early to one stop, so he has to pit again. There's no way he can do 19 laps on those hards. The issue with this track is that the tire deg is insane. He does track limits and gets another 3 second penalty. Like you just saw, it's very easy to get track limits here. I promise you, Brian did not mean to do that. He was just trying to do his best to turn the corner. He turned it too well. He's now in the track. He probably gained 0 time for that, but he has track limits. But as I was talking, Lone Wolf is now up into P3. Sorry, Lone Wolf gets a 3 second penalty. Like I said earlier, if you get one, you get one. And even though he was benefiting from not having one, he now has one. He now has a 3 second penalty. So currently P2 to P4 have the same penalty. P5 has, I think, 9 seconds. Trip Yachts P6 does not have one. Marshaller P7 does not have one. Kursk gets another one, however. That puts him at 6. Kursk is doing his best to catch up. However, he keeps falling down. I wonder if his tires are now ruined. It is possible he had a moment of locking up and he ruined his tires accidentally. But he is not gaining time on Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf is doing his best to keep up with Pontic. He's still within DRS if he maintains the current position. Trip gets a 3 second penalty. Lone Wolf is with Pontic, both with the same penalty. Very close to Pontic. He's doing his best to keep up for that DRS. If he can maintain the current gap, he should get P2 on the main straight. We are coming onto the final sector right now. Moving back down to the list. Leah Plays is currently P11, 0 penalties, being passed by Xenophi. Leah Plays pit, however. Starnick P9, Brian P8, Marshaller P7. Let's move back up to our race leaders around the final corner. Lone Wolf will have DRS, and he's close enough to Pontic to get it before the corner. DRS will activate soon. He does. Pontic covers the inside. Lone Wolf does not go for the slipstream, but instead decides to race him around turn 1, and he does not get the overtake. Pontic with a great defense covers the inside line. However, Lone Wolf still takes it. Lone Wolf still takes it from Pontic. It looks like Pontic backed off to avoid a collision. This should benefit Kursk a little bit, which he does. He gained a whole second on them because of the conflict. Kursk was down 2 seconds though, again, but he's now back up down to only 1. 3 seconds down. Lone Wolf gets another penalty, however. He's now at 6, while Pontic should be only at 3. So currently, Pontic has the least amount of penalties with only 3 seconds. Diamond Bullet has 9. Brian has 6, I think. Marshaller and Leah Plays, the Williams drivers, have 0 penalties still. Very similar to how they usually do. They race pretty much on track. Starnick is P8. Our last race winner in Imola, P8. Trip Yachts, P9. Sinophy, the Red Bull in P10 has pit. He's on 10 lap old hards, P10. Off goes Lone Wolf, very wide. I wonder what just happened. Seems like he could not make the corner. Pontic takes the position. However, it's before the straight, so Lone Wolf should have DRS again. So even though he lost the position, it was pretty much doomed to happen. Into the pits, however, he goes. 13 laps on the hard tires. Kursk moves up into P3. 3 seconds down on Pontic. He was at one point net P2 fighting. Now he's 3 seconds down. Pontic, who started last, moved up into P2. Naomi, who is 15 seconds ahead of P2, has got her first penalty, which honestly is doomed to happen. Even if you race by yourself with no threat behind you, it happens naturally, and she got her first penalty of 3 seconds. Pontic, P2, who should have only 3 seconds still. Kursk, P3, I think has 6. Diamond Bullet has now moved up into P4. They are on 12 lap old hards, similar to Pontic and Kursk. Stays out. Lone Wolf has come out P5 on mediums. In my opinion, this has been a very good race still. I'm enjoying it. Brian is P6. He was at one point net P4. He's been overtaken by Pontic and Diamond Bullet. Diamond Bullet has stayed out on his hards. I think Diamond Bullet's intention is to one-stop. However, the one-stop, you need to do 17 laps on the hards, I believe. That would be the ideal lap to pit. And it's only lap 14, so he might be able to do it. Kursk has not caught up to Pontic yet. However, it is possible he can overcut Lone Wolf. And even if he doesn't overcut Lone Wolf, if he can stay out, he can have fresher tires near the end of the race. So at the current moment, he is playing the long game and taking the hards as long as he can, because the mediums do not last on this track. A medium tire can do around 9 laps. But if he can stay out for another 3 laps, he could one-stop. Lone Wolf pit, I think, 2 laps too early to one-stop. He might have to do 2-stop, because he might be fearing a puncture later. As you can see, Kursk is already struggling on those hards. Those tires are not lasting. He has to brake heavily. Moving down the line, though, Trip Yacht overtakes Starnik for P8. Starnik is sick, according to himself, so hopefully he's doing his best. Let's follow our lead Alpine, Diamond Bullet, who has a shoulder injury. I do not believe he is running a special helmet this race. He's running his default helmet, which is still a pretty good looking helmet. He's currently P4. He is 13 seconds down on Kursk and 5 seconds ahead of Lone Wolf. However, his race is with Brian in P6. He is currently doing a great race. He's currently been doing a great race, sorry. P4. He is doing his best to take away that position from Brian by overcutting. Having a great race for our lead Alpine so far. Lone Wolf, who has pit for mediums, trying his best to undercut the following leaders. He knows that he's not catching up to Pontic, especially with Pontic's defense, so he said undercut. At the current moment, though, I think anyone who has not pit yet off the hards is one-stopping. Yellow flags for a car, I believe, is the Red Bull. Xenofy seems to have spun out. Yellow flags has caused nothing, however. He has been lapped. I think he only slowed down to let the lapping car. I don't think he spun, actually. I think it was a lap. However, he has now been lapped by our race leader, Naomi. Which means Leah Plays, who is P11, has also been lapped. And she will soon be lapped by Pontic, P2, who is close behind her. I wonder if the 2-stop is a mistake. It seems as if the people who are 1-stopping might just edge out the position by saving the time in the pits. The pits is a very long pit lane. If you look at the bottom right of the screen, the pit is from the start of the straight to the very end. So it's around the 30-second pit lane, if I'm correct. I have to actually check. I wonder if Diamond Bullet, who is the tier 1 commentator, put notes down. He usually does. He's very good with that. Let me check real quick. And he has, thankfully. Diamond Bullet has a great... So as I said earlier, the pit stop for this race is between 24 and 29 seconds. Thank you, Diamond Bullet. So it's a very long pit stop. And if you can avoid pitting and go for a 1-stop, you can save around 26 seconds, honestly. So Pontic, Kursk, and Diamond Bullet himself, who knew that information, might benefit. Diamond Bullet might possibly get Lone Wolf. It's a possibility. I don't know yet. He's already on him, however. So he's going to pass him now, but they're both going to do a pit stop later at the same time. Lone Wolf using a very unconventional overtake. I think he got track limits for it, but he gets the overtake done anyways. Passes Diamond Bullet. Brian passes Trip Yachts. Brian was our net P5 earlier. He is fighting Diamond Bullet, however. Diamond Bullet gives up the position, knowing that that's not his fight. His fight is with the Haas behind him. And currently, I think he's winning. Diamond Bullet might get P5 from Brian, the fan favorite. And by fan, I mean me. Moving back up to Pontic. Kursk has not been able to keep up. He's 7 seconds down on Pontic. They're both doing the one stop, so there's no strategy difference. Pontic might run away with P2 at the current moment. Kursk, however, is now trying his best to keep P3. His current competitor for P3 is Lone Wolf. However, Kursk is one-stopping. Kursk has already done the one-stop lap time. He just has to do, I think, another lap to maintain the one-stop on the mediums. So he has now gained a position on Lone Wolf. And he might be able to keep P3 not on race pace, but on tire strategy. Very interesting. Diamond Bullet has now come into the pit lane, comes off the hards onto the mediums. He is the first one-stopper to do it. He's passed by Brian, but Brian has to pit still. Unless Brian's able to maintain his car. Diamond Bullet will be the next car to be lapped first by... Oh, sorry, forgive me. He's not being lapped. He's being passed by Brian. Diamond Bullet has been passed by Trip Yachts. Trip Yachts is on 5-lap old hards. Again, I do not think he can take it to the end. The tire wear is horrible here. Diamond Bullet is going to one stop from here, though. Moving up to Pontic. Pontic is having tire issues, as you just saw. Pontic, who's P2, is coming into the pits soon. Not now, but soon. Lightcast got another 3-second penalty. She is currently a P1 for a almost a 20-second gap. She has not gained enough time to pit keeping P1, so I do not think she's gonna Grand Slam. I also do not know who has fastest lap. I don't know actually who has it. Oh, so Naomi does have fastest lap. So she is currently 2/3. She has led every lap so far, and she has the fastest lap. But if she pits now, she does not keep P1. She is passed by Pontic, unless Pontic pits on the same lap as her. So if Pontic pits with her, she Grand Slams, in theory. But if Pontic stays out, then she does not Grand Slam. So it depends on how mean Pontic is, I guess. But Naomi comes across the line, and she does come into the pit lane. Moving up to Pontic, who's 20 seconds down on her. It is possible Pontic pits or does not pit. Watching Pontic. Naomi is in the pit lane with the Williams of Marshaller and P9. A good pit stop from Ferrari. Pontic does not pit, however. Pontic is going to come across the line, and he's going to take P1 from Naomi, if only for one lap. Pontic is our new race leader. Pontic is now around P1, and he has taken the Grand Slam away from Naomi because he is petty. Very funny. Naomi is now P2. She is 5 seconds down on Pontic. With those new medium tires, she should be very easily able to catch up to him, probably within the next 2 laps to regain her P1. Also, Pontic's probably going to pit this lap anyways. I actually do not know that counts. Does it count if he pits this lap as leading every lap? If he comes into the pit lane, P1 it should count in my opinion. Kursk loses the position to Lone Wolf. Kursk is on the fresher tire though. Oh, forgive me. Kursk has passed Brian. I forget. Kursk is now up to P4. He is 15 seconds down on Lone Wolf. However, Lone Wolf might have to pit at the last couple laps due to a puncture. So Kursk might take away P3. Brian, P5. He is already on 10 lap old hards. Sorry. Brian's on 10 lap old hards. Can he take it another 10 laps is the question. That's a very hard question to ask someone. Diamond Bullet is P6. He's also one stopping like the front runners. Pontic comes into the pit lane. He is passed by Naomi before the pit entrance. So does that, he might have actually not taken away the Grand Slam. I think Naomi actually got it back. Again, Grand Slamming means nothing for the game. It's just me being funny. Or I'm just wrong. I don't know. I can be wrong whenever I want to be wrong. Naomi's back into P1. Lone Wolf is now our P2. He has successfully undercut both Pontic and Kursk, and he has a 10-second gap now. He just lapped the Williams. So the question is this: is Lone Wolf able to keep P2 on those tires for the entirety of the race? He has to do another 9 laps. That's 16 laps on mediums. If he can do it, he might be able to keep P2, but he might get a puncture. Pontic P3 will be the first car to overtake Lone Wolf for P3. Kursk 4 seconds down on Pontic, another 30 seconds down on Lone Wolf. However, if Lone Wolf pits, Kursk is back up in the P3. A very close championship. Currently, our championship leader, Josh, is not here. He might not return. A new fastest lap set by Naomi, who's a P1. Brian is P5, who might have to pit also. Technically, he might be able to stay out. He can do a reverse one stop, and he might be able to keep P5. However, Diamond Bullet is 11 seconds down on fresh medium tires. Diamond Bullet is having a great race so far. Trip Yachts is P7, 5 seconds down ahead. Diamond Bullet, 8 lap old hards, should be able to one stop from here, should be able to end it from here. Starnick P8, he is sick, 1 lap on mediums. Yellow flags, but it seems as if a car was just being let past. I don't know, actually no. Naomi had yellow flags for her, but there was no car around her, so I don't know what happened. She probably just had an incident. Move down. Xenophi, who sadly had damage lap 1, has been P11 the entirety of the race. He is still within the points, and he should still finish in the points, because we go down to 15, so he's in the points still, thankfully. Leah Plays is now being lapped by the Haas of Brian. She is currently P10. She qualified P9. Marshaller, who had a great qualifying session of P5, is down to P9. He is 2 seconds down on Starnick, and without a penalty. So, yet again, a Williams might get a position because he has no penalties, which is a very Williams thing to do. Starnick is P8, Trip Yachts P7. Moving back up to our front runners, currently nothing is happening as everyone is now playing the tire game. Lone Wolf comes into the pits as unable to keep the tires on track. Those mediums do not last that long. He pits for softs for the final 6 laps. 7? I don't know. He pit after 8 laps of medium tires, which is a very early pit. I thought he can take it until lap 26 possibly, but he had to pit early. So if the tire deg is that bad for mediums, it's possible that Pontic and Kursk can't do it. In theory, Pontic actually is only on 2 laps. He should be able to finish the race on those mediums, but Kursk might be in trouble. Kursk is on 4 lap old mediums. You add 4 laps, he only takes it to lap 26. And if he has to pit, then he will be undercut again by Lone Wolf. So it's not a question of can Kursk do what Lone Wolf couldn't and take those mediums until the end. Diamond Bullet P5. He was fighting Brian. Brian's now 14 seconds down. So Diamond Bullet might have won the battle, but like I said earlier, he's on 5 lap old mediums. Can he do another, I can't count, 5 laps, 10 laps? Not an impossible task. Honestly, a pretty easy task if you can have good tire management and not push it too much. Trip Yachts P6. We have not talked about Trip Yachts this race. He's been having a very comfortable race in P6. Very predictable strategy. by himself most of the race, similar to Brian's race. He's on 10 lap old hards. Can he take it another 7 laps? I think he can do it. But Xenophi has finally caught up to Leah Plays onto the main straight with DRS, overtakes into the corner and is up into P10. Leah Plays falls closely behind, but is unable to get around the outside. The Red Bull has now split the Williams finally. As I said earlier, there's no fighting after that because everyone's playing a tire game. Any overtakes from now on will be probably in the pit lane. Let's move back up to Naomi, who's P1. She has a 20-second gap, and she's now moving to lap a Williams? I thought she already lapped the Williams, unless she's lapping them again. Ah, she's relapping as she lost the lap when she pit. Makes sense, actually. I believe. So she's coming back to lap the Williams again because she lost the lap earlier. Moving up to down to Pontic, sorry. Pontic is P2. Technically net P1 if you count the points. While Naomi would win the trophy for the race, she would not win the points. That will be moved down to Pontic. Pontic will be our point P1, with Kirsch being our point P2. And Lone Wolf rounding out the podium for P3. Lone Wolf is lapping the Williams. Sorry, I zoned out. And is moving up to the Red Bull next. The Williams have not got a penalty still, which would be great news if there's a safety car. But currently there is no safety car. If a safety car were to occur within the final couple of laps, that will make the Williams have a great overtaking time. But sadly, the gap between them and the overtakes, them and the penalties are too great. Marshaller is the closest. I do not know how many penalties Starnick has. We can check real quick. Only 3. So Marshaller is 4 seconds down on Starnick, and Starnick has a 3-second penalty. If Starnick gets another penalty though, Marshaller will take P8, or if Marshaller can catch back up. Going back up to tires. We are on our final 4 laps of racing. Nothing has changed since lap 23, I think. I don't think anything's going to change for a little bit. Kursk is still P3. He's on 6 lap old mediums. Similar to Lightcast. 1 lap harder. 7 laps now. He's on the oldest lap tired. Medium tires, like Diamond Bullet. Both him and Diamond Bullet have to keep going. They cannot pit. If you pit off these mediums, you're losing multiple positions. Diamond Bullet especially, if Kursk pits for another tire, Diamond Bullet actually takes away that P4. Diamond Bullet is having a great race so far, but at the same time, Diamond Bullet is also on the same tires as Kursk. So if one suffers, they probably will both suffer. Don't know yet. Brian's currently P6, 3 lap old mediums. He's the freshest medium so far, besides... No, sorry man. He's on the freshest mediums. 9 seconds down though on Diamond Bullet. Nothing happening. No one's close enough to fight. Marshaller is losing time to Starnick. He was 3 seconds. In that 1 lap, he was down to 6. Wonder if he's having tire issues. He's also on 7 lap old mediums. So I think these medium tires are dying so far. They're not lasting. Pontic's on 5 lap old mediums. He might benefit slightly. Not enough to actually be like major. Lone Wolf on the fresh softs is 5 seconds down. So he has undercut Kursk and Pontic. However, Pontic will probably not pit. Diamond Bullet gets another 3-second penalty, which is the first penalty in a while. It does not seem like anyone got a penalty for a little bit. I wonder if we'll see a puncture. Pontic gets a 3-second penalty. Pontic has now 6 seconds of penalties. I forgot that there was a penalty difference, but now it's not. So from P1 to P4, 6 seconds. Diamond Bullet has 15. Brian has 6. Tripyot and Starnick both have 3. And the Red Bull and both Williams drivers have 0 seconds penalties. Very interesting. Does not change the race. I believe besides Diamond Bullet might move down a position. 15 seconds. However, he's a 6-second gap, so he might only lose 1 position down to P6. So nothing major. However, I do believe Brian and Diamond Bullet are fighting, so hopefully it does not affect the fight. Naomi now has a comfortable 26 seconds. I actually believe she can pit now and still keep P1. Pontic P2, Kursk P3. Lone Wolf is no longer catching up to Kursk. His softs have probably finally died out. However, he's still maintaining that 5-second gap. Xenophi gets the first penalty, 3 seconds. Again, nothing major. It does not affect his race so far. This is the issue with Qatar, in my opinion. Nearing the end of the race, everyone's pretty much on dying tires, so there's no more fighting, as everyone's trying their best to not get a puncture. I'm pretty sure there's some car out there at like 80% already, trying his best to finish the race. I do believe someone's gonna get puncture, so I'm watching the map. I don't know who's it gonna be. Probably gonna be, if anyone gets a puncture, it's gonna be Kursk or Diamond Bullet, as they're on the oldest medium so far. Lone Wolf is getting close though with his 5-lap old softs. They degrade way quicker than the mediums. So Kursk, not Kursk, Lone Wolf might get a puncture, but I don't think so. Might be rare. Lightcast does pit using her time delta to P2. Has now pit for softs. Going for a faster lap. Brian gets another 3-second penalty. Very strange. Lightcast is going to come out the pit lane. P1 still. Yes, she does. She's still P1. Let's go watch her actually. She's still P1. The gap to Pontic is 3 seconds now. And she's on faster soft, so she should be able to drive off into the distance starting now. They have to warm up though, but that shouldn't be an issue. Let's go to Kursk. Kursk should be trying to nurse those mediums. Lone Wolf is not going to catch up on pace. He's going to catch up if he has to pit. And as long as those tires last, Kursk can keep that P3. However, the question is he going to work? A puncture here will be devastating, especially if you lose too much time. I do think him and Pontic are getting up there. Diamond Bullet especially probably has horrible tires, but it looks like he's still pushing. Diamond Bullet does not care. He's him. It would be very funny if no tires are dying and I'm just being dramatic and everyone's having a good time. That'd be very funny for the drivers listening to me ramble for no reason. Lightcast pit the previous lap and she's going to now come across the line on her new softs. She's probably going to attempt to do a new fastest lap at the last second for no reason besides to do it. And we're now on the final lap. Naomi P1, Pontic P2, Kursk P3, followed closely by Lone Wolf, who passes someone. Diamond Bullet is passed. I actually don't know what just happened. Brian in the Haas has passed Diamond Bullet. Diamond Bullet is on incredibly old mediums compared to Brian. The Ferrari pits. The Ferrari laps another Williams while setting up purple sector 1. It does not seem as if Lone Wolf or Kursk has to pit. Kursk has been able to keep those mediums the entire 11 laps. And as long as he does not get a puncture in this final 2 sectors, which would be very ironic, he should get a net P3 as he drives the car around these corners. Lone Wolf trying his best to catch up in case anything happens. Brian, the second Haas driver who led the race at the beginning, is currently P5. But let's move back up into our race winner on track. Naomi comes across the line, a 2-time race winner, our first repeat race winner in the Ferrari, setting a fastest lap, a 122.0. Pontic comes across the line as well. He is our net P1 in the points. After this, P2. He's going to get the points for P1, followed by Kursk. Lone Wolf has left the session, but is still P4. Leah Plays also leaves the session, P11. Brian with the penalties. They're going to come across P5 very soon. Marshaller and Xenophi both are finished the race because they've been lapped. Brian is now P5, barring penalties, possibly. He is P5. Diamond Bullet comes across the line. P6. Trip Yachts will come soon after. It's possible he can get a position, if he doesn't do that, to get another penalty. And Trip Yachts comes across the line. P7 does not take it from Diamond Bullet. Sarnik, our last race winner, will be the last across the line in P8. Do not believe they were lapped. P8. This was a way better race than last week's. Forgive me for any issue that happened earlier. Thank you so much. Naomi will be our on-track P1, while Pontic will be our points P1. Good racing from everybody. Thank you so much. Our driver of the day will be Pontic, who started dead last. Our most overtakes will be Starnik, and our fastest lap and race winner will be Naomi. Great racing. Here's our Here's the... I can't talk, jeez. Here's the finishing order of our drivers today. After penalties were applied, don't think it actually mattered that much. Please remember you can make tickets in the chat if you want people to get penalties or if it affected you. That was a great race, and I hope everyone had a good day.